I have 7 o'clock and would like to open the meeting of the Economic Development Committee. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the November 16th, 2021 meeting?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion by Mr. King to approve the minutes. We have a second by Mr. Whitaker. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye. Any opposed? They are approved. We'll move right on into our discussion items. The ECD Pivot and Recover Grant. Mayor, would you like to speak on that tonight?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As we were doing our closeout meeting for the Tennessee Downtowns program, 2 members of ECD staff were here, and they informed us about a grant opportunity under the Placemaker Grant. The Placemaker Grant was in a program that has been in existence for a few years. However, due to COVID and some money that came in from the federal government, they added a second funding option to the Placemaker, and they call it Pivot and Recover. If you look at your handout I gave you a little bit earlier, that is basically, this is from the website for this grant. It's supposed to be used to increase the success and stabilization of local small business and entrepreneurs that have been impacted by COVID-19, and that could be through technical assistance, assistance with operating expenses, technology, or micro grant program. And if you look at the technical assistance, it's to small business owners and entrepreneurs, can include strategic planning, legal assistance, financial assistance, and other needs arising from doing business because of COVID-19. Operating expenses can be those that are directly related to COVID-19, which could be, need for additional staff to start a new program or expand a program. Technology can be equipment or other technology needed to help them transition to working online. And the micro grant can be a grant program to assist with various business operating expenses, technology needs, or other areas that are not currently supported by other state or federal programs. There is a requirement on the micro grant program, and those first 3 that you look at, technical assistance, operating expenses, and technology, that is a up to $100,000 grant. It requires no local match whatsoever. However, the micro grant program, if we were to do that, it is only $50,000, and it does require a 1-to-1 match from the local jurisdiction. So we would also have to put in $50,000. At that downtown steering committee, it was decided to apply for the technical assistance part, which would be the $100,000 grant, which would require no local match. There was a representative from Retail Strategies there, which is the retail recruiting firm that the Industrial Development Board has retained to help us with retail recruiting. And they can also assist in this Pivot and Recover. There's a couple other counties that were assisting with this program, and they offer to do the same thing here. And it would mainly be working with retail and restaurants and other small businesses that have less than 20 employees. That would consist of a customized training focusing on the small business owners to help them maximize operations, sales, and profit. And this would be done through group training or one-on-one consultation. Programs would include sales, restaurant recovery, shop local, funding resources, market research, and more. This will be done through various, virtual training, one-on-one training. And they did say that any of the virtual or anything like that, we could record those training programs and post those on either, say, the Chamber of Commerce's website or the county's website, so that those trainings there are available for anybody in the community who wants to watch them. And this will be a 2-year program. So that's basically what this Pivot and Recover is. As I said, originally, Retail Strategies had offered to assist with us with this. However, at the end of last week, I had a second group reach out and was interested in assisting us with the Pivot and Recover. So now we've got actually 2 different groups that want to be the one to provide the technical assistance. So that kind of surprised me, but I can't say I was I'm not pleased to hear it. I'm pleased to hear we got somebody else interested in helping us as well. So that's basically what this program is. Like I said, it's a 2-year grant, $100,000. It'll be 100% state funds. There is no local match for the $100,000 section of that grant. And that's what I'd like this committee to consider, voting to recommend that to the full commission to apply for that grant. Unlike this grant, there's not an application period. However, it's one-time funding. So once the funds are gone, they're gone. Whereas the other placemaker grant, the traditional placemaker grant, it's been rolling over kind of year over year. Whereas, like I said, this one's basically funded with one-time funds. And they said, it's kind of first come, first serve. So if we want to apply for it, I would hope that we could do it no later than maybe the end of June, beginning of July. So I could be willing to answer any questions, but that's basically what the program is. And we kind of can set it up how we think is best locally.
Yes, Mr. King, you have a question?
I do. I will say that this matter came before the Industrial Development Board, and it did pass as a support for the application of the grant. The mayor indicated that it was possible that the grant would need to be couched under the IDB. We stipulated in the motion that we were only approving the application for this grant, but any further requirements of the IDB would need to be discussed at a later date. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody on this committee understood that it did pass through there. Now, I, as chairman, really was a little bit limited on my ability to express myself on this subject, but that was the will of the body, that of the IDB. The mayor had indicated that Retail Strategies would administer this training to a fee of about $71,000. And then there would be about $11,000 added to that for administrative fees for Ms. Thomas, because she would be in charge of that. So it'd be roughly $81,000. Please correct me if I'm way off on that.
I would say that from what we figured out, it was the 10%. So we figured it's $7,000 for Ms. Thomas. So total will be $82,500. And I'd like to find something, if we're going to apply for the full 100,000, something else to use the rest of that money for, whether it's some kind of small assistance grant or something like that. I don't know, but originally, yeah, it was 70-something thousand for the consulting services. And then we can go up to 10% for administrative fee. We haven't been doing that on past grants, and that's my fault, but we can use some of those fees to help pay Amy for administering the grant, which she does administer a great many grants for us. So that'll help pay her expenses as well.
I don't think anybody will ever dispute Amy's dedication to this community and her hard work, that she carries so much of a load for everyone. But my question is that my concern is if we're going to pay $71,000 to Retail Strategies, be aware that I'm a big fan of Retail Strategies. We're fully on board with what they're doing for the IDB. But in this particular instance, I'm not quite as enthusiastic about paying them $71,000 to come in and offer training. I'm just not sure that the business owners that were affected by the pandemic and the losses will benefit greater than the expense that we're paying Retail Strategies. And in my own opinion, I would almost think that we would be better off to try to compensate the losses directly out of this $100,000 fund rather than offer them training, because most small business owners are not going to be very eager to take time for this training away from work or their families. And also, most small business owners are probably really not going to be all that eager to hear what they did wrong or what they should be doing to do better. I'm just apprehensive that we're spending a lot of money for very little reward to the people that were mostly affected. And it seems to me that it's entirely possible that just a direct monetary recovery or help program would be more beneficial to those people that were affected than offering them $71,000 worth of training. Now, maybe I just don't have a full, clear view of that, Mayor, and if you can help me understand better, then please do.
Well, most programs, even entrepreneur programs, do have training programs they go through. They have, I'm trying to think of one of them. Most of the entrepreneur centers have, I think it's a 9-week program they go through. And I do know Mr. Jones out here at Iris Fuel relied on several people on his business to get it up and running and get advice. And one of the things these trainings is to help them get into what's called omni-channel, which means you have an online presence as well as brick and mortar. They find that your businesses have a greater chance of succeeding if they have both an online presence as well as brick and mortar. So it would help them get that up and running too. And as I said, there is a little bit of overage. I went back and looked at it. And actually, if you look at retail strategies, is a little bit less. It'd be 68,000. The rest of it, there's 7,000, I think, in there for, yeah, like I said, the administrative fee for Amy's services to administer the grant. Yeah, if you want to look at doing something different, this is just what their proposal is. As we go through it, we got to submit some kind of budget if we're going to apply for it. I don't know. We're still going to have somebody administer it. It can't be done through my office if we're going to do grants or loans or something like that. If that's the route we're going to go, well, then we need to look at Greater Nashville Regional Council because they're the staff of the Mid-Cumberland Area Development Corporation, which is our area's small business administration loan program. So if that's what you're thinking, I would suggest we go that way. However, I would strongly suggest we do have some kind of training component in that, as that will increase their likelihood of success. And that is the focus of a great many entrepreneur centers and accelerator programs throughout the state.
Yes, Mr. King.
I don't disagree with you, Mayor. I don't disagree with you at all, but a couple of things come to mind. One, if there's a way for this community to get up to $100,000 that might benefit our business owners or citizens, then I think we should absolutely apply for that. But the administration or the decision-making process of how that money is to be applied, how would that go forward? Would it fall under this committee? Would it fall under a committee you put together? Would it fall under the IDB if you couch it under the IDB? Who is going to decide how this is to be administered?
Well, ultimately, it'd have to be approved by the county commission if we're going to apply for it that way. The IDB, that was just like a left field question they had. If for some reason it had to be couched under something, it couldn't be under the county commission. They asked if the IDB would be willing to do it, and that's why I took it to them. I don't see any reason why we couldn't do it under the county, but ultimately the final approval of what the budget is going to be is going to have to be done through the county commission if that's the way we're going to apply for it. And again, that's why I said we had this other group that was looking to apply for it. I haven't seen what their proposal is yet. They may have a different proposal for different services, but until we go through, I think if we're going to have multiple bidders, I think we'd probably, given that this is a grant, we'll probably have to go through our professional services selection committee if that's the way we're going to go. Because that's what our local ordinance says. If we're going to get professional services and it's involved attached to a grant, we have to go through that selection process. So I think we would do, this is just initial what the retail strategy sent. If we're going to go through that, then we'd have to go through that process and see what their proposals are. So ultimately, but at the end of the day, if it's going to be the county applying for it, it has to be signed off on by the county commission.
Yes, sir, Mr. King.
One last question, and I'll be quiet. Chairman Jewell, is it customary for a county employee to receive additional compensation for such an act?
Yes.
Well, I think Ms. Thomas does an exemplary job. I just wanted to make sure that it was in good order to do that.
I mean, it has that function, yes. In that type of circumstance, absolutely. The amount of money, would depend on how much time is involved in it. I think, if I may, that answer your question, but if you don't mind, I'll expound a little bit. So we're going to basically spend $75,000 to get 100,000, or we're going to take 75,000 of the 100,000, and the other 25, what would it go to?
Well, that's what I said is right now. And again, this is just their proposal. This is not what we're doing. And again, like I said, if we are going to apply for it, we would need to figure out what we're going to do with it. I do want to do some kind of, if it comes to grants or loans or something like that. But the other 25, I do agree that some kind of monetary assistance, because I've heard that from several of them. It's not going to be a great deal of money, but I do look to doing something like that. However, we still have to have some kind, I would prefer some kind of training program. Now, there are some out there that do it for various amounts of money. If you go through some of these entrepreneur centers, and the program I would think of actually called Co-Starters, I think that's a 9-week cohort. Or there's also, now that I mentioned, and I think about it, Pathway Lending has an entrepreneurial program that you can go through, and I don't know if they charge for that or not. And they are a small business loan company they set up to work with the government and all that stuff. And they have training programs as well. So that might be something I could reach out to them. I just now thought about that and see if they'd be willing to assist for this. But I do strongly suggest we have some kind of training program in there. And then if we want to do probably a grant program, because I don't think we want to get into the loan business and keep up with that unless we're going to partner with somebody like GNRC, which I use them because they are the contract staff for our Mid-Cumberland and Area Development Corporation, which is our SBA. So if that's the route we want to go, I would strongly suggest we reach out to them and let them put together a proposal of a program that would have eligibility requirements. And then they could oversee that grant program and not us.
So Retail Strategies, what they were proposing to do is a training type situation. Did they indicate how much training that would be? It would be once a day for 6 weeks. It would be once a week for 6 months, or is that still in the, I mean, I'm trying to understand what we'd be getting for the $68,000. I mean, to me, $68,000, you should be able to hire a pretty good consultant for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months for that amount of money full time. So if there's somebody to come up here once a week and teach a class of 2-3 hours at a time, that's pretty good pay. Not ragging on them, just looking at the pure numbers. I mean, I don't want to, you know, if we can get $100,000 and there's no match with it, if it doesn't have a lot of red tape involved with it, but my past experience with so many of these things is all of a sudden you've got to do this and you've got to do that. And you have to have this in place. And where's your this study and that study and your wild bat study and all these things. You wind up giving the grant to the consultants and have no money left for anything. Unless it's big bucks, unless you're looking at $500,000, $600,000, $1 million, then it's probably worthwhile. But I'm certainly not opposed to it. I'd like to know a little bit more about, you know, their proposal and some of these others, and there may be some other people that you've named that would be able to do something similar for a lot less, that are closer, that are kind of in this business. And you know, I actually like the 50,000, even though it is a one-to-one match. It looks like it would more actually fit the needs of our people, maybe actually less red tape to administrate. I don't know. It's a good opportunity, and I think we need to at least apply for it. Even if we apply for, are we having to lay out the program in the application? What's involved? I guess what's involved with the application process is my question.
Ms. Knudsen, did you have a question? Right.
I just wanted to make a couple comments. I was at the meeting, the Main Street meeting, and when Retail Strategies, it was a Zoom meeting for them, but they were willing to do the one-on-one consultation, but the rest already seemed like it was just their prepared files they would pop up for you to watch, you know, how to start your business, whatever. And I'm a little confused about that this is a COVID-19 technical assistance, but we keep saying it's entrepreneurship. The entrepreneurship people are the ones who go to the entrepreneur centers and get training for that. Everyone can have training to improve their business skills. I agree. But it just seems like we're talking about two different things, sort of. And have paying somebody to administer your grant. When Tennessee Tourism did their grants, they hired one big law firm that's all they did was handle the technical part of your grant, right? That's all they did was oversee the grant. They didn't train you. They didn't tell you how to spend your money. They just made sure all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed and it would be accepted. So I'm sure they took a cut, but they weren't responsible for my $500,000 grant or whatever.
Mayor.
Well, if you're a small business owner, you are an entrepreneur. So they're not two different things. They are one thing. And the Entrepreneur Center is just where you could have them located to get assistance and that kind of stuff, or training, like the Biz Foundry up there. They have co-working spaces that they rent or micro offices, but they also have training programs and other things available through them through Pathway Lending. They have a Women in Business program. They have lunches where they come to. So that's just a hub for people to come that are entrepreneurs. What you're really working on through this program is what you call your local entrepreneurial ecosystem. And that's trying to get all your resources and everything to allow your entrepreneurs to create your businesses. So that's kind of what this program is for.
Yes, sir, Mr. King.
I do support the application for this grant, as the IDB did. My personal 2 cents worth on this is there's three main things that cause the failure of small entrepreneur businesses: undercapitalization, inexperienced management, and I just lost the third thought, but I completely lost it. But anyway, if we had some money and there was a committee or a group of people that could help administer that, and let's say you set aside $5,000 for the applicant to use specifically for advertising or technology upgrades, I could see where that would be very beneficial to a local business. But I'm sorry, I just had a brain cloud on that whole thing. But I'm not really all that enthusiastic about paying that much money to a consulting firm, but I do think the grant could be very, very helpful if it's administered in the right way. So in short, that's what I think.
So would the committee be acceptable hearing different, and I don't know what they would do, but just to throw Pathway Lending out there, I do know they've worked with the Biz Foundry and several others on programs. So I think they actually have a Women in Business program, or the Co-Starters, which I think is actually some kind of program where you buy into it. I think that's something they were doing maybe at the Public Square one in Gallatin. I know some of the other ones have done it. The Entrepreneur Center in Chattanooga has done it, I believe, and so is one in Jackson. So just hearing different things like that, and I don't know what those prices are for those programs, but I think they're I know Pathway Lending is like a 9-week program. What the cost is, if there is a cost to that, I'm not sure, because usually Pathway wants to get you in there to where they eventually maybe get you a loan or help you get your packet together where you go out and do presentations to get money for your business. So is that acceptable committee if that's what you're looking at? If you compare, again, I stress they need some kind of training. As like Mr. King said, one of the things was failures is cause of management when it's starting off, some kind of training program at the beginning, but pairing that with some kind of financial or other assistance, whether it's operating expenses or equipment.
Any other questions from other members of the committee?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, that was a question I had. What is it that the committee, what kind of, I guess, elements of this program would you be looking for?
Yeah, yes, Mr. King.
I think more a direct touch to the entrepreneurs or small business owners would be more helpful than a consulting firm from out of town or classes. Now, maybe if the grant is received, we set up a committee and we can set up some parameters. And let's say that if you apply for this grant as a small business owner and you are accepted, then you have choice. You can either accept some consultation, you can accept some technology funds or some advertising funds. You'd be surprised, we have a local business that did not know how to advertise on Facebook. And you think everybody knows how to advertise on Facebook, it's practically for free. But once they figured that out, all of a sudden their business is booming. I think just little things like that would have a greater impact, and we could keep more of the money inside our community rather than sending it to Birmingham for consultation. But I absolutely support the application, and I'll make that in a formal motion that we make a motion to authorize the mayor to apply for this grant. But I do feel like the administration and parameters of the grant, if we receive it, should be discussed at a later date.
We have a motion to apply for this grant. Mr. Davis has a second. All in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, say no. One no. It does pass. Moving on, the next item is retail recruitment update.
I just wanted to add, if we could somehow, you were asking for some input on this. If we could make it where it's multifaceted option to the people, we'll give you a voucher for $1,000 worth of legal work, or we'll give you a voucher to go to this training from such and such place, or something to that effect, so that they have options of what best suits their needs. I think we could broaden the base of who is going to receive the benefits of this. So if it can be kind of fashioned after that, more of a multifaceted approach, that it might benefit more people than just one or the other. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. Any other comments before we move on? All right, the retail recruitment update. Would you like to speak to that, Mr. King?
The IDB is still working closely with the mayor and retail strategies out of Birmingham for retail recruitment. We're starting to gain some momentum. It takes time to gain the proper amount of momentum to yield some results, but I would say that Mayor Chambers would agree that his phone has rung more in the last probably 6 months from prospective retailers looking to land in Trousdale County than has in years past. So we are starting to become well-known and on people's radar and more attractive to retail businesses. We don't have anything hard and firm yet. We have a couple of new businesses that are landing in Trousdale County through no efforts of our own, but Dollar General is putting 2 locations here, and we're really, truly excited about that. But there's several other franchises, restaurant franchises and general merchandise franchises that are circling overhead looking for locations and suitable place to land. All in all, and I can't really divulge too much unless the mayor has more to add, it is optimistic to see that we're getting as much interest from these retailers as we are, because I think it is a heightened level from periods past. So we're starting to get some interest.
Thank you, Mr. King. Do you have any additional information you'd like to add to that, Mayor?
Yeah, essentially, especially within the last 2 or 3 months, we've seen much more interest. What's holding us back is we don't have buildings, existing buildings for them to go into. That's hurt us on a couple of ones looking here. And hopefully the development with the intersection improvement that's taken place or just started at the intersection of McMurray and Broadway. Hopefully when that's done, all the indications we're getting is that's going to be a very attractive piece of property for some businesses to locate there. There is the property that sold recently over here at the intersection of 25 and New Halltown Road. That gentleman, he was preserving the back of that property for some storage units, but there might be availability on that front parcel to do something with it. It's right there on the highway. It's got good access, good wide entrance going on the New Halltown Road. So there might be something there. Plus also with all the other housing that's development near it, according to retail strategies, when we went through our online meetings and showed them where we were looking at all these different developments popping up, especially in that area, they said, yeah, if you've got a potential apartment building plus another 20-something unit single family housing development, plus what's already taken place up on Acorn Lane and Hickory Ridge, that would make that piece of property even more attractive. So we are seeing that growth, plus with all the other growth we've got and potential businesses being recruited by Tennessee Central out to PowerCom, we are seeing much more interest. It's just unfortunately we don't have a lot of inventory right now to shop them to them, so we're having to get that developed as we go. But we have seen interest.
Any other questions on this item? I'm glad that seems like we're showing more interest. Seem like I have kind of felt that momentum too from speaking and talking to people.
One thing that maybe not be on everybody's radar because it was approved several years ago, but Mike Dyes and Mr. Beasley have started 24 more units in the development in behind the funeral home. They were previously approved for those. Footings went in the ground today. So there'll be 24 more apartments in that development by the end of the year.
Thank you. Anything else with the retail recruitment update? If not, we'll go into the Tennessee Downtowns program. Mayor, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, sir. Well, we have completed our participation in Tennessee Downtowns program. That was to help with downtown revitalization. As part of that, we did get a $15,000 grant that we used for facade improvements. We originally had, I believe, 8 applicants for that. We did shift some funds around. We originally were going to use like 2,000 of it for some other expenses because we weren't sure we were going to have enough, but we actually had enough applications to use all $15,000. So we used all $15,000 for facade improvements. So everybody that applied got a grant. We did have one applicant that dropped out due to ownership issues. So we had 7 total that did it, and that was a little over $13,000 that we put forth through the grant. That did stimulate about another, I guess, probably about $14,000, $15,000 in private investment to the building owners in the downtown area for those 7 projects. And all those projects came out looking very good. ECD came down, looked at all of them personally, took pictures of it, said they were very pleased with how it went. And so we did very well in the program according to them. And then that closeout meetings where they brought up the pivot and recover and those other options, as well as some other potential assistance to building owners in downtown through historic preservation grants and historic tax credits and those kind of things. So all in all, they said, given the circumstances of COVID coming out and hitting about the time we started going into the program, that they were very pleased with how we did.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions? Yes, sir, Mr. King.
I guess more under other business. Is that okay? I just want, since this committee last met, and most of you know, the commission has approved the pilot program for the Industrial Development Board, which is an exciting step forward for our community. It is an essential tool to lure businesses, mostly manufacturing industrial businesses, into our community, which would be job creation and instant tax dollars as far as sales tax dollars in our local government or local businesses. So we're really excited about that and really grateful for the help that we received from Mayor Chambers and Chairman Jewell all along the way, because we would have never gotten to the finish line if it hadn't been for their help. But it's a huge step forward for our community.
I'd certainly agree with that sentiment, Mr. King. Anyone else under other business have anything that they would like to say or add to anything that we have talked about? Hearing none, then any public comments here before us tonight? And hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Taylor makes a motion to adjourn. Mr. King makes a second. All in favor say aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you so much for coming.